Hello everyone, welcome to my live. I'm looking to make these lives more regular on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They are either going to be on TikTok, potentially on Instagram, and I'm looking to do some exclusive lives for all of my Patreon members, whether they are paid or just members. And remember, you can join my Patreon free of charge. You don't get as many of the benefits, but if you want to keep up with me and the most important things that are going on in my life and that sort of thing, might be something to consider. That being said, welcome everybody who's joining right now. This live is actually, I'll just go ahead and put it out there, it is sponsored by CBS Ghost. If you have not seen that show, I highly recommend checking them out. They are on Paramount Plus if you want to catch up on all of their content. And hello everybody who is joining. Yes, I'm going to get to answering some of these questions during this live. Hello, I'm seeing some of my Patreons join. Hello. Thanks for joining. Good to see you. And really with this live, I wanted to talk about what it's actually like to perceive spirits. And you're going to notice I say perceive spirits rather than just see, because when we are perceiving spirits, we use all of our senses. Remember, when you're getting information from what's around you, you may not only be using your eyes, you might be using sense of touch, you might be using hearing. There are a variety of things that you could be using. I do record my lives. All of them go up on YouTube and they'll be up there within a few days. So thanks for joining, everybody. Hello. Also, oh, hey, Tom. Welcome to my new reader's tent. I'm not doing readings tonight, though I felt like being cozy and showing you my new reader's tent because I've moved recently. I'm still in Wilmington, North Carolina. So yeah, that's all cool. And yes, it is a tent because I found out that in order for me to do the most effective readings, it helps me to have sensory deprivation. So I have a tent so that I can't see the space around me. And I also will sometimes wear headphones and play pink noise behind who I'm talking with. I do all of my readings through online consultation just because that way you never have to leave where you're from and I never have to leave where I'm from, and it's just easier for everybody that way. Oh, hey, Paige. Paige is one of my mods. Thanks for being here. Thank you for saying that. So yeah, hi everybody. Oh, good. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you stumbled across my live as well. Yes, very cozy sweater. I just got it from a small business in Greensboro, North Carolina called Sisters. It's on Tate Street. It's one of my favorite places. I do readings, but not on live just because there are a lot of people here. I might do collective readings occasionally, but it just gets kind of choppy with like connecting with people one-on-one in front of a bunch of other people. Now, some mediums and psychics will do that. No harm to them. Best for you. I do that for my Patreons sometimes, but primarily I just work one-on-one with the client, especially when personal information may be coming through that I don't think is appropriate for everybody to know. So that's just my personal boundary. Other people will have different boundaries, and that's totally okay, and that's beautiful. So that is where we are at. Cool. Wow, from Bulgaria. Very cool. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I wanted to get into how I perceive spirits just as a kind of review so that you know, one, from my experience, but also how you may be experiencing psychic or mediumship information from the world around you. So as I mentioned, there are numerous ways of perception. Thank you for the gifts. I see those. And I'll just start kind of moving down. So claircognizance is translation, clear cognizance or clear understanding. That's basis of intuition. That's just when you know something. Now, how you know that information can just pop into your mind. Another way of understanding claircognizance is how it also works with other parts of psychic information. So clairvoyance, for example, sometimes it's actually seeing with your eyes. Sometimes you may see with your inner eye. So mental imagery that you can actually fact check with the area that you're in. Oftentimes when I go to a place to do readings, I want to know as little information as possible. I don't even need to physically see. Sometimes I will actually go in not being able to physically see, and sometimes I don't want to hear anything either. Thank you for the gift. And in order, that just helps me to not be primed whatsoever. It's the same thing in consultations. I do have a little blip that people can fill out if they want to tell me what's going on in their situation, but otherwise they by no means have to. Sometimes we just get in and they're just like, all right, what do you see? Boom, there we go. Thank you for, no, I have not quit TikTok. I am regularly posting, and I do pre-release all of my ghost skits on my Patreon, just so that all of those are there. I have been regularly posting, but unfortunately not many people see that as of late. So if you want to be sure to catch the content, or at least the ghost skits, because I know most of you found me through ghost skits, that will be on Patreon. But yeah, I don't have a cancellation list right now. If you feel like you have something that needs immediate, like an immediate read for some reason, I do have a readers team, and some of them do have availability even within the week that you can check out. Many of them, I mean, truly all of them are very, very, like, I mean, obviously all of them are very talented. That's why I want them or have them on my team. So if it's a more immediate concern, you can check out the other readers. Right now, my consultation wait is roughly 4 months, so not too crazy. It used to be well over a year, so I feel like this is more manageable. Thank you for that. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you. Thank you. So anywho, we were talking about clairvoyance. So clairvoyance can be inner eye clairvoyance. It can also be dreams. It can also be daydreaming. Daydreaming is also when we get into theta state, which is how we channel. And yes, everybody can channel. Everybody can tap into psychic perception. Most people do it every day and they don't even realize it. So that's one of the things I teach more on Patreon as well. So that's clairvoyance. Clairaudience is when you're able to hear psychic information or medium information. That might be physical hearing, or that might be inner ear clairaudience, where it's kind of like sometimes your voice is speaking to you, but from a third person. That can get spotty because I know how that sounds. It takes practice and it takes cross-validation to be sure that you're getting the right information, essentially. So yay, you met with me. Awesome. Thank you. Let's see, other stuff moving down. There is clairsalience, which is being able to smell. Same thing goes with that. Sometimes it's a physical smell. A lot of people talk about in haunted places, they might smell like bacon cooking, or some people will smell a past loved one's perfume. That can also work. Inner nose clairsalience, where it's like your nose understands what it's supposed to be smelling, but otherwise it's not physically smelling, and that's where the claircognizance can fuel that. Clairgustance is when you taste psychic information, which can totally get weird. I don't focus on that a lot, and sometimes it's like the inner understanding of taste, which once again can get weird. But if you're answering a specific question, like if somebody is like, what do you think was cooked here, and then you start tasting cookies, there's your answer. Other psychic perceptions would be clairsentience, so that is psychic touch. That doesn't always mean feeling a hand on you or being able to just outright touch a ghost or a spirit or something like that. Sometimes that might be understanding that the temperature has shifted. That might mean feeling a presence in the room, or being able to notice the electromagnetic field change when somebody is coming into the room. So there are different levels of that. Sometimes it might mean goosebumps. Sometimes it could be feeling numb or feeling heat on a specific place on the body, or cold chill or something like that. So already if you're going, whoa, these sound pretty normal. Like people talk about going into places and feeling cold without reason, and then like the cold leaves. Yeah, because, oh my goodness, thank you for the jellyfish, Austin. Yeah, because everybody can grow these abilities. It's just a matter of acknowledging that it's possible and that you can. I teach a lot of different little tidbit courses and a lot of like games that you can play with safe spirits, like your spirit guides or past loved ones, ghosts if you trust them. I teach a lot of that on Patreon, but I also do that on consultations as well. I work with people one-on-one, and we actually do different demonstrations and different ways to grow psychic perception within the consultation if time allows, or if that's what somebody wants to work on specifically. So we talked about clairsentience, and then there's, I like to consider clairemotive as another branch. Some people will say that clairemotive is clairsentience. Yes, I would say that, though I like to differentiate them, just because feeling emotion, I think, in my humble opinion, is different from feeling physical feeling. Now, you might get a knot in your stomach that represents the understanding of an emotion. However, the knot in your stomach is once again the representation of what it would feel like. It's not necessarily the emotional feeling. So for any of you who have associated or called yourselves an empath before, bam, that's you can also be clairemotive. They can work very similar to that. So all of that to say, I wanted to explain the psychic senses again to kind of review them for anybody who's joining for the first time, in order to speak about how I perceive spirits. So it is not like I just see them with my eyeballs all the time, and I just hear them with my ears all the time, and I just touch them with my hands all the time, which would be weird, but like, you get the idea. It's more a combination of different elements. One, I know how to shield and turn things off as needed because I live in the living world. I don't want to just live in the spirit world because I am not a spirit right now. I'm a spirit in a corporeal form, and my objective and my priority is to be here while I am here. Now, how I perceive spirits. Clairemotive is a very strong one. Clairsentient, so that's a touch, also a very strong one. And I would say claircognizant, just knowing. I have a lot of inner eye clairvoyance. If you've ever been told, oh, you have a very vivid imagination, that means that you have accessibility to having clairvoyance. You may already have it. It's just understanding how it works for you. I have been working on growing my inner ear clairaudience, but even so, because I'm not hearing it with my physical ear, basically when I get psychic information, it has to use my vocabulary. So sometimes that gets kind of weird because some people want to use more enhanced words, more beautiful words, and my poor vocabulary, the public school teaching of North Carolina did its best. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Cool. I'm glad that you found me again. I love when I do lives and people are like, oh my goodness, it's you. And it's like, it is. So thanks for finding me again. Please know that I have been posting. And if you want to catch up on those, I would love that. That would just mean so much to me. And let's see. Yes, that's how I perceive. And of course, I work with people on reading their own skill sets and providing them tools and ways that they can safely do that on their own. I also talk about shielding and whatever makes you feel most safe. So that's really how it can be different from what you might see in movies and TV. Oftentimes in media, we don't see the option to temporarily turn it off or tune it down. I would say rather than turning it off all the time, for me, I tune it down so that I can just go to a party and not connect with so-and-so's so-and-so, whoever shows up. But yeah, you can actually manage them. They don't have to manage you. And I think that's a huge misconception. Even for some like psychic mediums, some psychic mediums don't know how to turn it off for themselves, but I'm just going to tell you, you can. So if at any point you're like, oh, this really scares me, what if I like hear things all the time? You don't have to. It's just a matter of understanding how to shield and how to work with your own perceptions, but also how to work with your spirit guides. Spirit guides are the folks who are with you. They have a sort of contracted agreement to help you in life, to move you forward. And a question I get oftentimes is, are they always past loved ones? No. In fact, most of the time they're not, just because past loved ones still may be living out their journey or maintaining their sense of self for themselves rather than giving that to another, though it can happen. But primarily we're talking about ghosts. And P.S. for anybody who's just like, mediumship, doesn't that only mean past loved ones? Nope. I just did a talk at the Sacred Spaces Gathering, 3 weekends ago in Richmond, Virginia. Thank you for the heart. Where I did a speech on reclaiming mediumship. Mediumship at base is connecting with spirit. Also, hey, Caitlin, you were there. Connecting with spirit. It does not mean mental health help, by the way. Now, some people may be trained as mental health counselors. I am not. And I do drive a really hard line on some of the subjects that I go over. Thank you for the heart. Just because some things I can mediate for somebody, some things it's not my position to do that. That is for a trained professional to do that. So that being said, Mediumship does have different frequencies to it. It's the same thing when people talk about like, oh, I can only perceive angels or I can only perceive deities. That means that their frequency level sits very high. Remember, high doesn't mean good and low doesn't mean bad. It's just high and low. Some people will only be able to perceive ghosts unless they work on it to perceive others, but they may only be able to perceive ghosts. So their frequency sits a bit lower. Some people may perceive otherworldly beings. Some people may only be able to perceive past loved ones. The main thing is, when looking at a reader, understand how they perceive and do read up on how they perceive and what they're best at perceiving. Part of the reason why, thank you for the heart, part of the reason why I have a team is because those team members do things better than I can. And that's the point. I don't think we're all meant to be the best at everything. Yes, I'm Rebekah the Ghost Guide. I have this platform. I'm honored to have it. That said, I have a team because they do things better than me in some areas. Now, we do overlap with some things as well, with some of our mediumship styles and who we talk to and how we can talk to them. However, I want to lift people up. I'm sitting here from an area of wanting to encourage people to do this, to tell other people that I'm not the only one who can do this, obviously. And I want to celebrate other people who can do this well too. And obviously, I celebrate a lot of people, whether they're on my readers team or not. So just putting that out there. Let's see. Here's a good question. Any good books to read about this stuff? So I really love publishing from Llewellyn. That's a go-to for me. So check out the publisher Llewellyn. They have a lot of books on a lot of different subjects. Also, for $10 a month, you can also consider joining my courses on Patreon. And I put out a solid course each month, not to mention you get access to pre-releases of all my ghost skits. You get a monthly outlook that's specifically designed for the Patreon. And sometimes I put little extra perks on there, like reading perks or discounts and that sort of thing. So that might be something else for you to consider as well. So I'm just going through my comments, see. Okay. Oh, okay, this is a good question. Little Lottie Lovegood, have you had to tell someone that they had abilities that they don't know they had? So typically, if I'm going to do that, it's going to be in a consultation, not necessarily because of the payment thing. It's more of a matter of consent. At most, on like the day-to-day, I will be like, whoa, that was intuitive, or look at you, intuitive, or look at you, trust in your gut. I don't want to overwhelm somebody and be like, wow, you are clairvoyant. That might be a bit much for them. I always want to come to them on their level to understand their consent. When people are not ready to understand these things, they will shut it down, which is totally fine. So for me, I want to lift people up when they're at that place. I want to gauge their interest in something. I never want them to feel like something is being pushed upon them. So I will always be appropriately trepidatious on what I share with people. But at base, I'll, be like, whoa, you're catching vibes, or like, hey, empath, or being like, that was intuitive. Look at you trusting your gut. Like, there are ways to do this that are more acceptable in everyday understanding. So hello. Thanks for being here. Oh, thanks, Tom. Tom said my Patreon's great. Thank you so much. And Joey said the courses are awesome. Thank you. Good. I'm glad you're here, Tiffany. I know I'm posting, but I understand sometimes those aren't seen. Tony asked, do spirits sleep? Ooh, I did a video on this like years ago, so it's okay if you didn't see it, obviously. I found that spirits more so have a time where they're not actively manifesting, and that's kind of like their sleep. That's kind of like their rest. Manifesting, when I say that, requires a kind of cognitive function to be able to be like, I think, therefore I am, right? So when they sleep, it's oftentimes a state of rest where they're not actively there. That's what I found. Now, have I seen spirits like laying down in a restful state? Yes. For anybody who wants to know who that was Molly. at one point she was like, you woke me up. And I was like, what? I don't know if she was actually sleeping, but I think what happened was she was laying down, and then I was kind of like pinging at her, and I was like, hey Molly, like, and then she was just like, I was sleeping, aka I wasn't paying attention to being cognitively aware at this moment. I hope that answers your question. So thanks for all the Patreon love, and thank you mods for being here. Yes, amazing people in the chat today. You were absolutely right, Paige, and you were one of them. Let's see. If you feel like you have abilities but don't know how to start, I would say check out materials, check out my Q&A playlist, because I do have some information on like little games that you can play on the different clairsenses that I said. Those are at the earlier part of the video, so if you missed them, do check out my YouTube. This recording will be up on there later. Other things you can do. I mentioned my courses. I do a lot of courses on that. You can be inspired by other creators. Go through my Ghost Kids playlist. I go into a lot of stuff on like how I'm perceiving and like my difficulties with that. I'm writing a book on that so that hopefully people understand even better. In fact, Emily Dexter, who is Liker of Words on here, got to read one of the final drafts of that book, and that was all very exciting. But that was on a podcast for Alchemist Inkwell. But anywho, let's see. Any other questions? Okay, I'm kind of going through questions again. Once again, I did want to give another shout out to the sponsor of this live, which is CBS Ghost. I hope you will all check it out. I really, really like that show because they talk about a less scary representation of spirits, that it doesn't always have to be doom and gloom, that it can be funny, but yeah, it can be a little bit scary too. So I think that's normalizing spiritual experiences in a friendly fiction context, but also has different relatable themes that I feel mediums, spiritually sensitive people, psychics can relate to. So big thanks to them. I hope you will check it out. The first episode is now up for the 3rd season, and you can catch up on everything on Paramount Plus. So yeah, thanks to them. I really appreciate their sponsorship. So cool. I'm just going through comments. Let's see, Barefoot Barbarian. I've been one of those people who, when I walk into a quote haunted place, nothing happens. Why? You may have a kind of shield or boundary up around you, or even potentially a spirit guide that is pushing stuff away. So that might be something to check in for yourself. I have seen this before where sometimes people, both consciously or unconsciously, may put up a shield that pushes everything away. I've seen some really impressive shields. So, oh, thank you for the heart, yay. Other thing would be to check yourself. Things might be happening, though if you're a super skeptic and you're always being like, well, no, and you're explaining that away, even if things aren't always explainable, that might be you as well. So, not to call you out, I'm saying in general for anybody who's watching this. So, Andrew, thank you for that. Yeah, as I said, this whole live is kind of like about understanding how everybody has abilities and how it's just a matter of growing them. Thank you for the heart. I'll tell you too, this is not something for me. Oh, thank you, Kara. This is not something for me that's been 100% all my life. I have very much had a spectrum of ups and downs that were really about my self-belief. A lot of it was about my mental health. I oftentimes talk about my mental health journey, because my mental health journey and keeping that in check and acknowledging my self-worth and my confidence and my trust in myself was the thing to help me with spiritual stuff. If I can't trust myself, how am I supposed to trust psychic information? I am the thing that the psychic information comes to. So once again, if I can't trust me, if I don't find worth in me, if I don't find enough in me, how am I supposed to trust the information that I'm getting from somebody else, whether that's corporeal or incorporeal? So yeah, I'm a big advocate for understanding how you think and where you are and why you're there and where you're present, because all of those things will help you understand spirit in whatever context you are curious about. So yes, I got some Emily love on here. Yes, yes. What do you call it when people see things in dreams? That is a kind of clairvoyant. Let's see. Rupert is not here at the time. Yeah, I did do a live with Rupert. That one's my most recent live that was posted on YouTube where he answered some questions. So, yeah. Okay, so Maggie asked, you mentioned earlier about spirit guides and that it's not always family. Can you explain? Happy to. So, I am of the belief that we have a lot of different lives in a lot of different places, sometimes even at the same time. Ooh, thank you for that. I love this. So in that understanding, you may have spirit guides that are connected with you on a soul level. Now, what does that mean? Perhaps you have incarnated together at different times. Perhaps where your afterlife is, where your respective afterlife is, because in my experience, there are numerous ones and we can go to different ones. When we get over there, we figure it out. Don't worry about it right now. That being said, you have a soul team, you have a soul family. It's the same thing when people meet like a best friend and they're just like, whoa, I feel like I've known them from somewhere. Yeah, we are very connected. So spirit guides could be those people. They could be ancestors. They could be, on the rare occasion, they might be deities or higher level beings. They may be animals. They may be otherworldly creatures like fae, aliens. There's just, the sky's the limit for that. And the thing is, if anybody's like, oh man, but I know my so-and-so past loved one is around. Yeah. And they could be offering you spiritual guidance. Maybe they are a guide. Though what I found is spirit guides, they have a bit higher of a frequency level because they're not as attached to this physical plane. Past loved ones are oftentimes, thank you, attached still to this physical plane because we're here. And it's not a bad attachment. It's just love. Love is an attachment. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. So if their attachment is too much to us rather than what's best for us, that can be something that kind of keeps them from becoming a spirit guide. That being said, they can still offer spiritual guidance. It's just a matter of understanding that they're going to be biased to their human experience, whereas spirit guides don't have that bias as much. They still have their own character. They still have their own personalities, though they will understand where, ooh, very cool. I love that. Spirit guides proper will understand the larger themes of your life and will be working with you on how to get there, even when sometimes it's hard for them to watch because sometimes growing is painful. But how else do we grow? Thank you for that. I love this. Oh my goodness. It's one of my favorites. Thank you for the gift. So okay, Barefoot Barbarian. I'm not terribly skeptical. Okay, cool. I'm interested. How might I look into that? Thanks, you're awesome. Oh, thank you. As far as like looking into finding more information and stuff, oh, thank you for the gift. Oh my goodness, all of you are giving so many gifts. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so your curiosity is going to be your best friend, truly. And with this, I recommend going to places that they don't necessarily have to be haunted. Like, they can be any place, and just start asking yourself, okay, what do I, oh, thank you for the heart. What do I feel that may not be here that thank you for this, all these gifts. Thank you so much. What do I feel or see with my mind's eye or hear with my mind's ear? Anything, or like, do I feel a color or an emotion or something like that otherwise my physical senses are not giving me right now? Really, psychic information and perceiving that is just having a moment to be present, to be like, cool, before I got here I felt like this, what do I feel like now? So I also have a journal. It's like a field journal for going to haunted places that helps break down that process so that you don't have to think about it in the moment and be like, wait, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to feel? Like, how am I supposed to see? Thank you for the heart. So that might be something to consider as well. That is available on my website and on Amazon. I believe it's $11.11 because I like ones. So it might be something to consider. That being said, I understand not everybody's into carrying stuff with them, or if that's not something you feel like is aligned with you to afford right now, you can look at the pages on my website and find your own inspiration. Thank you for these gifts. I really appreciate them. So yeah, that being said, yeah, I know I've mentioned all these gifts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all are so kind. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I know I've mentioned a lot of resources that do require some kind of financial energetic exchange. That being said, I understand everybody is in a different place. So that's why I have so much content on my page. I have it here, I have it on Instagram, I have it on YouTube, and it's all just readily available, no paywall here. So, oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. All these things are so new. These are so cool to see. Thank you. So yeah, I think one of the coolest things in the heart, y'all are just like so much with these gifts. I so appreciate it. Like, so giving. I'm just like, oh my God. One person, I remember they booked with me, and this is when my waiting list was a bit longer. Now it's roughly about 4 months, but they booked with me in January. I met with them in October, and this person told me that they just binge watched all of my skits, and they went to YouTube, they saw some of my lives, I have a lot of reading activities on YouTube as well in long form content, so you can practice doing that as well. And remember, time and space doesn't matter in spirit, so even if you're watching, you can still get psychic information from wherever you're at. It's just how I read with people from afar. Thank you, Jenny. Oh my goodness. So really, this guy like went and booked, and then just went through my exercises, went through my TikTok, just plowed right through it throughout the year, started to have a huge spiritual awakening. So by the time I actually talked to this client, we weren't talking 101 stuff anymore. Like, we were actively getting into it. The person had already started to figure out their guides, started to figure out psychic information, how they read different things. So please understand, like, while these mediums and having the energetic exchange of like money through Patreon and that kind of thing, while it does greatly help me, if you're in a spot where you can't do that, get curious. Just keep going. There's so much information out there. Oftentimes the biggest block and the biggest limiting belief is people just getting distracted or deciding it's too hard, or that's, not something they have time for. It's basically, I would say, if you can write, if you can make art, if you can make music, if you can do anything creative like that, if you can act, you can channel. And that's only a few of the arts as examples. Thank you for the gifts again. I really appreciate it, everybody. So, let's see. Thoughts on animal communication from Crash Tech Dummy. Okay, animal communication. They primarily, in my experience, communicate through clairemotive as well as clairvoyance. So that's imagery and that's emotions. And of course you can communicate with them like physically as well, just like how we, a hug may mean different things to different people. A handshake may mean or feel different ways to different people. Really, with any of the psychic information, is we're trying it. It's just like meeting anybody for the first time. And in this case, it's an animal. So you are working with their language. You're seeing what you can see. You're asking them to send you information. Oftentimes, animals will be very obvious with thinking outside of their head and wanting to share that with others. So really, the sky's the limit on that. It's just the biggest thing is believing the information that you're getting. And of course, I'm not saying, I'm not going to be here like, oh, you need to believe everything you get all the time. Test yourself in a good way, like in a way to build yourself up, to be like, I'm getting the feeling that I'm seeing my dog like wanting to eat something in their mind or something like that. Maybe it's not mealtime. So you can ask them like verbally and be like, are you hungry? Like, or whatever verbiage that you might use. See what happens with that. You can test these in really fun ways, or you can look at getting those buttons and be like, are you hungry? And then, ask if they're hungry. So, that's that. I would say that's animal communication 101. I'm not an animal psychic exactly, but I have dabbled in that. Once again, not every psychic medium is going to be the best at everything, just like in any kind of area in life. So while I have been able to do it for some instances, that's not a service that I feel comfortable selling. It's more of a, if I'm going to talk about somebody's animal, I might connect with the person's spirit guides to be like, what insight do we need about this situation? But for the most part, I support other folks who may be animal communicators. So let's see. Have I ever participated in research projects on experience with spirits? From Eve. Nothing comes to mind, just because I haven't known of any sorts of projects going on in my area. If I ever saw something that was looking for psychic mediums, especially if it was cognitive function and that sort of thing, I'm in the understanding, like MRIs, when you're channeling spirit, that different parts of the brain will light up, which is really cool. That's actually a way to tell the difference between somebody who is psychic medium or somebody who has schizophrenia. They light up different parts of the brain. From my understanding with psychic mediumship, the part of your brain that will light up will be the same part where prayer or meditation would light up as well. So that's very interesting. Other things like psychic tests and that kind of thing, like, you know, somebody holding up a card and for me to be like, oh, a heart's on that card, or like a star, or that kind of thing. I would be interested in doing that sort of thing. I think that kind of stuff is fun. I do that for fun. So yeah, if any of you know studies near Wilmington, North Carolina, and they're looking for folks, you're welcome to send them my way. My assistant will read their inquiry. So yeah, let's see. And yeah, there are a bunch of different options on my Patreon. I would say base, if you're looking to grow abilities, check out the courses. It starts $10 a month and you have access immediately to I think 140 hours of content. So you can really go at it for $10 starting, and if you've got a lot of time in the month, you can go straight through it. But I do make a new course every month. Ooh, good question. So have I ever dealt with rude spirits? And if so, how can I manage dealing with them? Yeah, okay, so I always say if you can handle telling somebody, like in the physical, to go away if they're being rude, you can handle a rude spirit too. It works the same way. I've run into plenty of rude spirits. I will make content about some of them, though you don't often find me making content about scary stuff. One, because I don't go into situations if I'm scared. It's not a good energy to be in. I always want to go in level-headed. But yeah, I've met rude spirits. I mean, they are attached to their personality and why they're there, their opinions, that kind of thing. I've been told all kinds of weird things. I've been called names. Some of those things have actually shown up on paranormal investigations. So, yeah, if they're bothering me, I tell them to back off. It's the same thing if somebody was bothering me corporeally. In fact, just because of the state of the world that we're in, I feel more confident telling a spirit to bugger off than I would some physical people. So, yeah, if you have confidence in yourself to tell a physical person goodbye, you can do it in spirit. Just don't overthink it. Just be like, excuse me. Nope. Absolutely not. So, yeah. Let's see. Grumpy is gonna grump. Thank you, Morningfell. Any shows that show more true representation of what I do? Yeah, so I mentioned Ghosts, CBS Ghosts, BBC's Ghosts. Some people have referred to my life as Ghost Whisperer. I actually haven't seen that one, but seems like it. Let me think. Ooh, I did really like, for the spiritual representation of it, the first season of A Haunting, like Haunting on Hill House. I felt very seen by that as far as like what it felt like to grow up in a haunted place, and, you know, timeline jumps and differences and kind of like seeing ahead but also seeing behind and all of that sort of thing. The second season I thought was interesting as well, but I think the first season like really hits it. Another thing, when I saw Conjuring as a kid, while that certainly goes into like Hollywood stuff, how in the movie Lorraine Warren sees spirits as like sometimes there's like a shadow behind people, that was the most validating thing for me, because as a kid growing up I was just like, I see stuff on people sometimes and it's uncomfy. And then I saw that movie and I was even more scared because I didn't know what to do, and I was just like, I've seen that. What? Like, other people could say that? What does that mean? So yeah. And for that case, movies, The Others with Nicole Kidman. I like Coco. Like, granted, that's a very fantastical version, though I like the concept of what is kind of like purgatory, which doesn't have to be bad. It's just kind of like a holding place for them. And also how they interact with us and like the understanding of the afterlife and that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be scary, of course, but I thought that was a beautiful representation of what the afterlife can be like, depending on where you find yourself going. And when I say find yourself going, I don't necessarily mean like up or down, heaven or hell. No, I just mean there are a lot of different places that we can go after this. It's just a matter of being of level mind enough to be able to allow ourselves to go. Just like in anything in life. Isn't that wild? It's like mental health, right? Like, what keeps us back oftentimes here? And if you're thinking money, I did a live on money blocks with Krista Lynn. If you're interested in that, that recording is up on YouTube. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So, all right, cool. Let's see. Oh, okay, Rebecca M. Thank you for correcting. So Ghost Whisperer tends to send spirits into light by the end of the episode, so I would say no. It needs to be their choice. Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out, because I haven't seen it before. And yes, I just want to remark on that. It is a choice. And here's the thing, you can't shove somebody into the light. They will come back if they don't want to go. And also, I did a video about this. What does the light mean? Like, what does that even mean? It can mean something different for people. Some people are afraid of the light because they think they're about to meet the judgment of God, and so they don't want to do that. And which God? You know, I'm sitting here as a polytheistic pagan, like... What does that mean? There's just so many options out there. My work as a psychopomp, somebody who can, with consent, move spirits to where they want to go, rather than go into some vague understanding of the light. I'm just like, hey, when's the time that you felt whole? When was the time that you felt happy? And I basically, with their consent, ask them if they want to go to that time. Spirits in the ghost sense, specifically the ghost sense, are pieces of themselves. Oftentimes, the larger part of the soul does move on. It can be reincarnate. There are a lot of varieties, options there. So when we're talking about ghosts, that's a fragment of somebody. Now, they can gain more sentience. They can know exactly where they are. They don't always have to be confused or scared or that kind of thing. Though, if they don't want to be where they are and they do want to move on, just like we can sometimes send them forward into like a higher self, we can also send them where they want to go in a past so that they feel more whole. It's, once again, asking them, when did you feel most whole? Okay, cool. Remember, spirit is not bound by space or time. That's how this works. So if you're going, but wait, we already passed that time. Yep, but the energy still exists somewhere. I try not to overthink it too much, right? So that's what I try to do. I want to explain these things to the best of my ability. I never want to be like, woo, I can talk to spirits, therefore I know stuff. No, just because people are talented psychic mediums, that doesn't always mean that they're able to explain stuff. It doesn't always mean they're able to teach it. This is a hyperfixation of mine. Like, I've always been very interested in the spiritual realm of things, even when it really scared me. Now I see it as a responsibility to encourage people to feel empowered with where they sit and how they can do things. Let them understand how they can perceive this psychic information, that they can shield it and that doesn't have to be overwhelming. And that's why I teach this sort of thing. Thank you for the girl. Like crown. I don't know what that's called. I don't know what these gifts are called. Here's to me being a TikToker being like, I don't know what that is, but it's just pretty and I like it. Autumn, let's see. Autumn Sims, do you sense spirits all the time, or do you have times by yourself in a sense? Oh yeah, goodness. I need alone time too. And I work it kind of like a switch or like a lever, where if I'm in consultations, for example, I get prepped for that and I'm kind of like, woo, I'm connected. And then afterwards, I might go for a walk, or I might like watch a TV show, or like have something to eat to like, my guides can be around at any given time, but I also don't need them around all the time. Plus it's like, I don't want people to be in the room all the time. Like, that would get weird. It's kind of like, I've heard some mediums be like, your past loved ones are with you all the time. And I'm like, I hope not, because I use the bathroom. I have private times with my partner. Like, I don't want that. Like, sometimes I'm talking about things that I don't want them to know about. So, like, in my experience, I don't keep them around, whether guides, past loved ones, ghosts. Nah. Sometimes if I'm in a space with a lot of haunted activity and just want a space alone, I'll create a bubble around myself where it's like a two-way mirror, and they might see past it, but they don't necessarily have to see me. I used to call myself having the power of invisibility growing up, and I didn't realize that was a psychic skill. So you can control them for sure. All right. So, oh, I love this question. Katie, what is something small that brings you joy? P.S. I would love to see that in the comments if people want to comment that. Something small that brings me joy. Honestly, this cardigan. I'm so happy about it. Fun thing. So I mentioned I got this from a small business in Greensboro over this past week. I was kind of on the fence on it, but it feels so like fluffy and warm. And Rupert was with me that day, and he was actually the one to be like, you should get it. He sometimes says to use his allotment, which as someone who has played a leading role in my ghost skits, but who has also helped me write my book, which is not out yet. And if you want information about that, consider signing up for my newsletter, or you can become a free member on my Patreon. I'll put it out there as well. But yeah, he considers his allotment as a part of his pay for allowing me to talk about some of our conversations here and in the book. So the funny thing is, oftentimes his allotment is used for me just when I want something and I'm kind of on the fence and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna buy that, or I don't know. He'll be like, use my allotment. So it's like him giving me a gift. Doesn't happen very often, but it just so happened with this cardigan it did. So that was cool. Thank you, Katie. That was a beautiful question. I really appreciate that. Ooh, okay, Candace asks, can spirits or ghosts move our physical body, specifically, or especially loved ones? That is a matter of consent. So if you ever feel like you're being moved and it's not your consent, remember your willpower is going to be your best friend. If you can do it with a person, you can do it with a spirit. Remind yourself that. I don't allow spirits to just move me, whether that's a push. I don't allow spirits in my personal space to do things for me. That is a personal boundary for myself, because it makes me uncomfortable when somebody else that's not me is here. Or even if it's just like here. Now, here's the thing. With my consent, I might allow a trusted spirit, as in somebody who I actually know, to like lay a hand on mine and like direct me somewhere. Like for my lithomancy, I do that sometimes. But it's not willy-nilly. It's not just whenever, whatever, at whatever time. sometimes spirits can use our energy to move things, kind of like batteries. But yeah, just for me, I have a hard boundary on what I allow spirits to do in general in my space, but especially with my body. This is the safe spot for my soul. It is going to stay that way. I don't let folks in. At most, sometimes I might pick up on mannerisms or like how somebody speaks, but it's the same concept if you were with somebody who's very close to you and you start kind of like, if somebody always does this, you might start doing this. It doesn't always, I don't even know what this means, by the way. I've just seen people do it, by the way. I hope that doesn't mean anything weird. But anyway, but I guess I should have done thumbs up instead because that's more universal. Well, it's universal in the States, not other places. Anyway, so it's a matter of that. It's a matter of like feeling comfortable enough to pick up something that they're doing or like a this. However, at the end of session, I always cleanse out my energetic field. I do not take those things with me. It's for a very specific matter of time. But at no point are they in me or moving me without my consent. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Haley asked, quick question, what's your favorite crystal? And I think this will be the last question that I answer because I've been on here for an hour. I know, I've got it nearby, outside of my tent. This is a smoky citrine. I got this for myself as a celebratory gift to myself when I made a Patreon goal last year. And I love smoky quartz and I love citrine, and this is the same. It's all in one. This is I've nicknamed her them, I don't know, it's crystal lantern, because goodness, when I sit here like this, it's just I light up. So yeah, that's the smoky citrine. P.S. I do encourage you, when you meet goals, regardless of what they are, go celebrate yourself. That's something I had to learn in therapy. My therapist was so proud. I was like, I actually got something for myself out of a celebration. It wasn't even a necessity. It just made me happy. My therapist was like, good job, Rebekah. So here's your sign from the universe. If you have achieved a goal of some sort, you should go celebrate yourself. That might mean, getting ice cream or going to see a friend or something like that, but you deserve it. Also, Tom, yes, Catherine will be on later. I'm not sure what time that will be. Also, hi, Krista, I just saw you. Krista's the emotion and body coder on my readers team. I mentioned that before. But yeah, if y'all want to talk more ghosty stuff, Catherine will be on later to talk about that, though I'm not sure what time that is at the moment. So, yeah, everybody, thanks for joining this live. This is going to be a regular thing, so help me, on Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If they're not here, they will be exclusive on Patreon. I just have to kind of figure out what days work best for them. So thanks everybody for joining. Thank you so much for the gifts. I really, really appreciate you giving me gifts. That's just so kind. Thank you, thank you. And the likes and the comments and just the kindness in the chat. Thank you, mods. And thank you, CBS Ghosts, for being open to me talking about what it's like to be a psychic medium in a real context. And thank you to them for creating content that is enjoyable and fun and makes spiritualism exciting and something to be curious about. So, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for caring, and I feel like we're all on the same mind. So hope everybody has a great night and a great weekend, and yes, happy to give you that advice, and this live will be up later on YouTube. I don't know if I keep saying that like 5 different times. So anyway, woo! Have a good night, everybody.